Hey Algebra 1. Today's notes are on solving inequalities. So our inequalities are our less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to, basically anything that isn't an equal sign. The good news about solving inequalities is it's pretty much the same thing as solving an equation. There just isn't an equal sign in the middle. So these symbols you've definitely seen and used before. So our first symbol is less than. When you put it on a graph, it's an open circle. So if I was graphing x is less than 5, well, on my number line, I'd have an open circle at 5, and my arrow would point to numbers that are less than 5. The next one is our less than or equal to symbol. So if I was graphing on a number line, x is less than or equal to 5. Well, this time x could be 5, so I have a filled in circle at 5. And my arrow would point to all the numbers that are less than 5. Our last two symbols are greater than and greater than or equal to. And same deal with these. If x was greater than 5, then on my number line, at 5, I'd have an open circle, but this time my arrow has to point to numbers that are greater than 5. And for greater than or equal to 5, well, this time x could be 5, so I would have a closed circle here, and my arrow would point towards numbers that are greater than 5. So this is all stuff you've done before and seen before, and I think even some of this solving might be familiar. So when you're solving an inequality, you're doing the same thing that you do when you solve an equation. So in this first example, the inequality said x minus 12 is less than 8. So we add 12 to both sides, and we end up with x is less than 20. So on the number line, we have an open circle at 20, and the arrow points to the left. The weird thing that can happen, though, is that sometimes when we're solving these, we will end up with the inequality on the right side of, not the inequality, we'll end up with the variable on the right side of the problem instead of the left. But when we write an inequality, our variable has to come first. It's like good math grammar. So in this problem, 3a plus 6 is less than or equal to 4a. My first step would be to subtract 3a on both sides. And we end up with the inequality 6 is less than or equal to 1a. But this is bad math grammar, so we have to flip all of this so that the a comes first. So if 6 is less than or equal to a, then a has to be greater than or equal to 6. So on our number line, we'd have a filled in circle at 6. Arrow would point towards the right, towards numbers that are greater than 6. So there are some problems down here for you to try. These will be posted as a Google Slides practice. So the other thing that we need to talk about are inequalities where to solve them you have to multiply or divide. And this is the one weird thing about solving inequalities. If we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to flip the inequality symbol. So in this first problem, I have 14h is greater than 91. So to solve, I have to divide both sides by 14. I'm dividing by a positive number, so I don't have to flip my inequality symbol. And 91 divided by 14 is 6.5. To graph this on my number line, I would put an open circle at 6.5. And my arrow is going to point towards the right, towards numbers that are greater than 6.5. So if we look at one with a negative number in it, like the one right beneath it, negative 3/7 r is less than 21. I'm going to rewrite this so it says negative 3r over 7 is less than 21. And now I can see that to solve this, the first thing I have to do is multiply by 7. And now I have negative 3r is less than 21 times 7 is 147. And now in the second step, I have to divide both sides by negative 3. When I divide by a negative number, I have to flip my inequality symbol. So I went from having a less than inequality to having a greater than inequality. And 147 divided by negative 3 is negative 49. So on my number line, I'm going to have an open circle at negative 49, and my arrow is going to point towards the right, towards numbers that are greater than negative 49. These last two are going to be on your Google Slides practice. And then next week we will look at some multi-step inequalities. So inequalities that get a little bit more complicated.